Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Wine Down Fridays. We'll give a sister a hug, the Survivor Edition episode. I'm your girl, Author Erica. I have my fabulous co-host on with me, Author Kim, today. So, as you all know, this is October, and October is Domestic Violence Awareness and Breast Cancer Awareness. And every day in the month of October, we'll have a survivor that feature on Give a Sister a Hug. And today we have our special guest today is Miss Venessa. First I want to say thank you from taking time out your busy day and even having the strength to even share your story and allowing us and Give Us a Hug to share your story. And we're just gonna pass the ball on to Miss Venessa and let her take the floor.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi. So I think it's really important during this month to talk about domestic violence. I think there's a lot of stigma attached to it. And
Yes.
I think there's a lot of women and men out there who are either embarrassed or apprehensive to share their story. That's how I've been for quite a while. But I think there's something good about sharing it with others and helping break that stigma, and people can relate and make them feel supported in what they've been through. I've been involved in a couple of violent relationships throughout my life. I think it probably stems from a lot of different things. I grew up witnessing violence between my parents. My dad was an alcoholic and was not very nice to my mom or myself and my brother. So some of it I think was just normal for me to see that. As I got older, I got involved with a man who I had a child with. And there were some early signs that I ignored. Just, thought that his controlling behavior was love initially. And so didn't really think too much of it. And then it became more violent, and he became physically and emotionally violent with me, sexually, all of it. And I felt very trapped. The divorce process with him was frightening. He took me to court. He tried to say I was the abuser. He tried to turn things on me. And it was a long process. I got out of that marriage and took some time to myself and thought I'm really healing and went to therapy. And a few years later, I ended up in the same situation. And I thought I was doing everything right. I watched for red flags and I didn't really see any. We had a pretty honest relationship. But within 6 months, he got physical with me. He had a drinking problem. And the first red flag was one night I called him out on his drinking and he grabbed me by my head and said, "Don't ever say that again." At this point, it was hard for me to leave the relationship. I was very invested financially. I loved him. And so I thought, well, maybe this won't happen again. He said he would get therapy, counseling. It didn't happen. And then there was one particular night in August of 2019 that he had been drinking a lot and he almost took my life. There was strangulation involved. At this point, I have some damage from what he did to me and deal with a traumatic brain injury from that. I work as a nurse, and so I thought I would know the red flags, but I think I was trauma bonded too. And, at that point, I felt trapped. I felt addicted to him, all the chemicals that go on with trauma bonding, and it was a scary time.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
So,
That's a,
and you're away from him now.
I am. I will say I've had communication with him on and off. I think that trauma bond is deep. And
Yeah.
once you're involved with someone, I think that's what a lot of the public doesn't understand. They'll say, well, why does someone stay with a person who's abusing them? Just walk away. But it goes so much deeper than that. And I lost a lot of friends. He isolated me from family and friends. So when I left, I didn't feel like I had much of a support system. He was my support.
Mm-hmm.
so when you say trauma bonding, talk a little bit about that because it's not many people that know about that. And talk about that a little bit. Give us an example on trauma bonding.
Sure, it feels a lot like an addiction. And when I've read about it, there's a lot of chemicals like dopamine and things that are involved in it. So someone will give you a little bit of positive reinforcement or love to hook you back in. And then all of a sudden they'll turn on you again. But your body and your brain is used to those chemicals and they want that high of feeling like I'm good enough or I'm loved. So they give you a little bit of that, you go back, and then they take it away and the cycle begins. There's a lot of manipulation, gaslighting, I think, that is involved in that as well. So it's a mind, it messes with your mind and you don't know what to think. Um, and so for me, it felt very much like I was hopeless without him, that I needed him in my life, that I couldn't move on from this relationship. It didn't help that I didn't have friends at that point. He would talk badly about my friends and say, oh, they're not good people for you. Don't communicate with them anymore. They don't want anything good for you. And so I would have less and less communication with them, to the point where I think they got frustrated and said, we're not going to do this friendship with you.
Mhm.
And I know
Did you
in
ever
a
tell anyone? I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Did you ever tell anyone, like, your mom, your dad, or any, siblings or anything?
No, it was kind of my dirty little secret. I was super embarrassed for what I was willing to put up with and didn't know how to tell family. My friends, a couple of them knew, and they said, you got to get out of there. The first time he put hands on me, they said, this isn't going to end well. And I think they were frustrated and concerned for me. And when I stayed with him, they decided that they didn't want to be friends with me anymore.
Do you fault them for that? Because that's a lot of, when you talk to a lot of survivors, and a lot of them say that, like, do you get mad at, your, if they're still friends, or, old friends, that they no longer talk to you? Does that make you feel a certain type of way?
I think initially it did. I can understand their frustration. They saw me at a point where they said, you're going to lose your life if you stay with this man. I mean, the statistics show when you have strangulation involved with
Right,
a violent relationship, the risk of death is very high. And so
right.
I think that they were frustrated with me. At the time, I felt abandoned by them, which actually made me want to go to my abuser even more.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
that's understandable because he's the only person that you know at the time, and you felt that comfortable. That's comfortability, and
Mhm.
Yes.
I know you say in the beginning with your first marriage or relationship that you was sexual abuse. Do you feel comfortable talking about that?
Sure. I think for me, what it happened is I would often not be interested in sex, and he would push it to the point where he would force himself on me. And when I told him, this feels like you are taking advantage of me and not listening to me, he had the idea that I was his wife, and that's what I needed to do, despite me saying no. He said, that's your job as my wife. You need to do that and provide that for me. And then he would threaten to say, well, do I need to go get it from someone else? um, and so that would happen frequently.
And that was the way of controlling when he gets sex by
Right.
saying, "I'm going to get it from someone else."
Yep.
How did that make you feel?
It guilted me into having sexual relationship with him when I didn't want to. It made me feel used. And I think when you're already feeling bad in a relationship or marriage and you just keep getting beat down emotionally, physically, you get to a point where you don't know what to do, and you just kind of give in to things, or you just get used to it.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
And that's just suck as a
And
person. Sex supposed to be enjoyed, especially with the person that you love. It's
love.
not supposed to
Mhm.
feel like ill. Which
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that it makes, I think, future relationships difficult too.
Mhm.
The trust part, the sex part, you don't feel like you can trust them in that sense. And it really impacts any sort of relationship you want to have in the future.
I
Right.
can
Which I
only.
totally agree with that. So the child that you have, did your child, I don't know if it's a girl or boy, but did they ever see any, dad do anything to mommy?
Yes, we ended up divorcing when she was quite young, but she did see, and even now, I have a very limited relationship with him. I did kind of the gray rock approach that they talk about after we divorced, where I will only communicate with him about our daughter, and it's through email. But early on through our divorce, she would see him yelling at me, and she witnessed that, and it has had an impact on her. She's been in therapy. She has anxiety, that sort of thing. And it's long lasting for her. And I worry about the type of relationship she will choose in the future when it comes to men.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
I mean,
something to worry about. Yes.
yeah, they talk about that a lot, that, like, I guess for you, you saw it at home, you saw, your mom and your dad do it. And then, of course, we think we see the red flags, we know what they are. But then by that time, we're already like deep in. So then it's
Yeah,
like, what do you do? And by the time you realize everything that's going on, you're already financially into it, you're emotionally into it. And then, you might have a child that's, into it. So then it's like, okay, what do you do? Because I feel like I'm stuck.
exactly. Exactly.
I can't go to anyone and talk to anyone about it. So what exactly am I supposed to do? And you just feel stuck, and it's just sad. And because I question myself, because I'm an advocate and I listen to people, and then I kind of struggle with being an advocate because I understand, but then on the flip side, why do we keep going back when we know it doesn't feel good? Like, I get it, but then it's like, but aren't you tired? But aren't we tired? I'm tired. As a friend, I'm tired for you. And I want you to be tired. And I understand, like, I understand because I've been through it, but I want you to be tired like I'm tired. And it's just like, what do we do? I want to keep, being there for you, but I don't want to get that phone call that says, something bad has happened to you. And I'm like, we were just talking, and we were, she was trying to get her stuff together so we can, so she could be safe. And then this happened, and it's like, what do you do? Like, I'm still struggling with trying to when I talk to people talking about it, because I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say, and then I get pushed away, even though, I haven't done anything. I listen to you, but it does get to a point to where, sometimes I do get tired, but at the end of the day, I know that you need me, so I'm listening.
I think it's hard. I think it's really hard for people to understand why someone would stay in a situation like that. And I'm sure emotionally it's hard to see what your loved one or friend is going through, and the frustration that, why aren't you listening to me? And I don't want to have to go to your funeral. I don't want to have to visit you in the hospital. I think support is really important. And even though there's a lot of support out there, when you're feeling so isolated, I think it's hard. The trauma bond for me was probably the most difficult, and it is like an addiction. And so for me, I think a 12-step program or something like that for codependency is really important too, to understand why you feel panicked or scared without them, or why you're drawn back to them even after they've been so mean.
I never thought about that. Like a 12-step program. I never thought about that. I think that's a great idea.
That is.
I
Yeah,
think that
I
is a
think
great idea.
I think a lot of people who are involved in a domestic violence relationship are codependent on that person. And so, just like drug addiction, you are somewhat addicted to your abuser. And so, getting into a program that can help you recognize that, and have even a sponsor you can call and say, hey, I'm having a rough day. I want to reach out to my abuser. I'm feeling lonely, and have them kind of talk you down from that and remind you why that's not a good idea.
Right. That's
I
something.
think that's something you should start. I think that's something you should start, Miss Vanessa.
That's a great idea.
I think that is an awesome idea. I really do. I think that's something, girl, you need to start that. Mm-hmm.
So, Vanessa, have you ever had to go to a domestic violence shelter? And if so, what was your experience with that?
I didn't have to stay at a shelter. Through my marriage, I did work with a domestic violence shelter, and they actually paid through my divorce because my husband was charged with domestic violence twice in our marriage. And the last time is when I said, okay, I need to get a divorce. The courts recommended I go to get in contact with them, and they paid for my lawyer to go through the divorce process.
Oh, okay.
Great. That was
That's
great.
awesome. Yeah, that's real good because
Yeah,
you don't hear that a lot of times. You hear, we have a shelter and we can provide you with food, but nothing that we gonna pay for, help you with a lawyer. Like I think there's like law services or something like that, legal aid or something like that. But that's amazing because you don't hear that these
right.
days.
Right.
No, I was fortunate because part of I think some women or men that are in situations like that can't afford to get out of it. And so you feel stuck in
Exactly.
that sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah.
At what point in the relationship, in either or relationships, that you felt like, okay, this is enough? Did it take a situation to happen, or it was just something that you sat down and said, I can't take this no more?
I think for me, it was just having a talk with myself. It started to impact me, obviously, physically, and having to go to doctor's appointments related to head injury and to the trauma, that the CPTSD that I was experiencing. I told myself, this is no way to live. It's not going to change. I think people are always hoping for, oh, they're going to change. They're going to have this light bulb moment where, okay, they recognize, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't treat someone this way. Recognizing that's not going to change, and I don't want to die at the hands of someone else in that way.
Yeah. Wow.
So, are you seeking therapy now?
Mm.
I am, yeah. I've been doing it after, I think COVID was really hard on people too, because there
Yeah.
was limited resources. People felt more isolated. So I've done some therapy on Zoom with the therapist, which has helped. I've done a lot of self-help with books, reading a lot online, trying to find support in that way too.
Good.
By any chance, would you recommend a book for someone that's going through, domestic violence?
There's a book that I have, and I can't remember the name of it. It's not specific to domestic violence, but it talks about codependency. And for me, that's my biggest issue. And so that's helped me the most. There's the support group I'm on with Facebook, and hearing other stories and things like that help me feel not so alone in all of
Alone.
this.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
good. You need I think it's important that you need people around you that share those same feelings or
Mm-hmm.
going through the same thing or went through the same thing, because they can help you navigate, drop little jewels and little tips that can help you get through the next day, because sometimes it's hard. Like you say, is I want to call that person back, because that's that comfortability. I'm
Mm-hmm.
out here and I'm making this change, but it's so scary because people judging you. So I need to go back to the place where I'm comfortable at. So, that's understandable. Go.
Okay. So, yeah, I think support is probably one of the most important things, and not feeling so isolated. We were talking about the Facebook groups and different groups
Right.
online.
Mm-hmm.
I think that people can offer little tips, and just so you know, don't feel like you're the one that's crazy or feeling like you're the only one going through this. We all know it's happening, but to hear people's stories or have something we can relate to helps.
Yes,
Right.
always,
Right.
always. It's
Right.
always.
I don't know why, it just hit me when you said the whole codependency. Like I never thought of it that way. Like I really think that is a great idea for, like might need to be 12 steps, but 5 steps or whatever. Something like that so you know how to cope with what you're feeling about that person. I never thought. I think that's a great idea. I think that's something you need to start though. But I think that's a great idea. I just never thought about that though. I never thought about it. It to me it's just mind boggling. Like really? Oh, okay.
I think knowledge is power. And so the more people learn
True.
about why they're feeling the way they do, it helps
Mhm.
normalize things for people. And for me, doing a lot of research into it, why am I feeling this way? Why do I attract people like this? What do I need to do to help prevent this in the future? And it takes a lot of work. I mean, if you grow up in an environment like that, it's ingrained in your brain from a young age.
True.
Right.
That,
That's true.
that
That's
is
true.
true.
So where is Venessa now on her new journey? Where is she now? And what does the future look like for her?
It's still a lot of work. I'm a nurse, so I stay busy with work, but I also try to take time for myself. I've realized putting importance on myself and not pleasing other people is important. So I try to take myself out on dates. I like jewelry, so if I find a ring, I think I'm going to buy that for myself and give it to myself as a gift.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Taking myself out to eat or go shopping and realizing I don't have to have a partner to do that. I think that reading as much as I can. And there's a limit though. You don't want to overwhelm yourself with information and then it feels like too much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to date for a long time. I've decided I cannot get involved with someone until I am healed. And I
Mm-hmm.
am not there yet. And I'm only putting myself in another position to get hurt if I go and date too soon.
Right. And that's
And,
that's
and
that's
that's good.
understandable.
Yeah, that's good that you know that, because a lot of, women that we've talked to feel like that they can't be themselves if they're not with someone.
Yep.
So that's good that you're putting yourself first, period.
It's important for for kids and everything. You have to put yourself first. I
Right.
can't be a good mom, a good nurse, whatever I'm doing, if I don't put
Mm-hmm.
myself first and make that a priority. And that's why I take myself out on dates too, because I'm like, I got to love myself before anybody else can love me.
That
And
is
that's
true.
so true. And going out on dates actually is not that bad because I do it. Like
Mm-hmm.
at least you get to go when you get ready. You ain't gotta wait
Yep.
to say, okay, well, are you ready?
Yeah.
Or if you
Yes.
with a group of people, you gotta be like, okay, I hope they hurry up. Whereas if you
Yeah,
by
I think they're
yourself,
starting to wind down. I think they're
yeah,
starting to right. Yeah,
I
yeah, you
think
ready? Oh yeah, we're ready. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
so. It is good to, it has some pros and cons to dating yourself. Like it can be a little drag because at first I thought it was like weird. And
Mm-hmm.
then
Yeah.
after a while, yeah, I was like, you by yourself, girl. You're not dating nobody. But
That
Yes.
is
And I
okay.
can
after,
pick the food I want. I can do whatever, not have to talk to someone else about it. And I think, building up my own self-esteem too, because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
my issues were related in having low self-esteem. And then I was with men who, made that worse and told me I was no good or criticized everything about me. So
right,
I think, building my own self-esteem is important too.
yeah, it
I
is.
agree with that.
So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it is. We have to. A lot of stuff starts with us. It starts with self. If self not together, everything else gonna fall apart. So it is. You have to be strong mind. So
Mm-hmm.
we have women and men that sit down and that's watching your story. What suggestions or lasting words that you have for them?
I think it's so important to get to a safe place. I think that people, don't recognize the dangers with domestic violence. And, it can be scary, but there are a lot of people who die at the hands of someone else because of domestic violence. And so recognizing those early warning signs and getting out sooner rather than later. I think a lot of people try to ignore them or justify them or whatever, and it doesn't turn out well. The statistics show that once someone is abusive towards you, they're going to continue and it will likely worsen.
Yep. Just that's the true statement.
Yes, and
So
it's
very
always
true.
yes, it's important as women. I think a lot for us as women, we always trying to fix the person or
Mm-hmm.
trying to fix the situation. And we miss all of those signs, and it's smaller things that we do miss at the end. So it is important that we watch for those little signs and not always trying to, when a person show you their little pretty rainbow, take their little pretty rainbow for what it is, because
Yeah.
that rainbow might get a little darker. So so it's important that the little things we just can't brush off the little things. We have to, if he says something jokingly, We need to put that in lock and memory because you say that jokingly. Because people sometimes say things in a joking way, and we miss those things too.
Mhm.
Yep.
So
For me, the control piece too. I thought that meant he loved me. Oh, he wants, he doesn't want me to dress a certain way because he loves me. He doesn't want other people looking at me. No, no, no. That's a control issue, and that's an early sign.
Right. Mhm.
it is.
Which is true. Mhm.
So,
Which
sister,
is
you
true.
have anything?
I just want to thank Venessa for coming on here and telling her story. I really think you need to start the 12-step coping. I really think that's I've never thought about it, so I think that's a great idea. Maybe that's something you can look into. But continue to share your story because I don't want to take anything from breast cancer, but we hear about breast cancer all the time, but nobody ever wants to talk about domestic violence. So it's like, wear pink. Why not wear purple? You know,
because
it's,
because pink gonna
everybody
bring.
knows somebody that's have dealt. If they haven't died, they've dealt with it. If it didn't happen in your home, as in, with your mom and dad, or you knew something was going on within the family, we need to talk about it. It's okay to talk about. So, I thank you for being able to come on here and tell your story. So I'm grateful for that. And I still think you need to start that program.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
we talk about all the time that it's enough. It's not enough to talk about breast cancer. I mean, domestic
Mm-hmm.
violence and talk more about breast cancer. Let's look at
Mm-hmm.
reality with that. And
Mm-hmm.
reality is breast cancer bring in money
Yeah.
because people gonna need chemo, they're gonna need radiation, they're gonna need pills, they're gonna need their meds.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas domestic violence is gonna take money out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So they
Mm-hmm.
look at what's the most important investment. The most important investment is I'm gonna put my money where I know I'm gonna get a return on it. Which at the end of the day, the funeral home gonna get a return on it because some woman might die at the hands of an idiot.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's all it all needs to be talked about. One is not
The other.
important than the other. That's just
Mm-hmm.
like what physical health and mental health. One is not no more important than the other. So we have to keep spreading the word. We have to keep talking about it because not only us as adults are being affected by domestic violence, our teens are.
Mm-hmm.
Our teens are in these teen dating relationships. They think because the boy said drop your location, that means he loved me. No, that don't. That's control. That's a sign of control.
Right.
He wanna know, oh, he asked for my password.
Mm-hmm.
That's little control, like so it's important that we talk about these things and we
Right.
constantly having these conversations about it because people everybody not every woman not on breast cancer. They're not checking their boobies every once a year or however times you have to check it because people find out about breast cancer late. So education is important both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think starting it in schools, they don't really talk about it. At
Yeah.
least when I was in high school, there was not much conversation about it. And I think from a young age, people need to know. It's unfortunate, but they need to learn about it and learn the warning signs.
Yes.
I
So
agree.
I think
I
it's
agree.
important that we
Mm-hmm.
talk about and stop being scared to have these conversations with our kids. Because when we sat down and we really start talking to these little crumb catchers know more than we think they know. Like
Yes.
they
Yes, they
know
do.
they know more than what and then you sitting there trying to hold your heart because you having palpitations because they know more. It's like,
Yeah.
Right.
oh well, I didn't know you know that.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
gotta start having these open conversations. Like we need to have these open conversations. We need to stop being afraid to say things and ask questions with our kids. Have those dialogues because those dialogues are important these days. So
Right.
educate as much as we can with our little people because when you start talking to the little people know a lot. Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
they do.
Yes, they do.
So I I want to say thank you, Vanessa, for taking time out your busy day and just even having the strength to even say I'm gonna tell my story and
Mm-hmm.
allowing us to share your story. And before
Mm-hmm.
we go, drop a positive affirmation, sister. A
Um,
positive affirmation.
Positive affirmation. Let me look around, see if I can find something. Um, Let me see. Be kind. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to anyone that you are around, because you never know what that person is going through. So just be kind, and mainly be kind to yourself.
Miss Vanessa, give us a positive affirmation.
Oh gosh. Putting me on the spot. Um,
Oh gosh, it's not a positive affirmation.
oh God. I can't think of anything. I think that's right. Be kind to others. I mean, that's important. And I think love yourself. Um,
Yes.
I think that's important. I think that's a
Very
great
much.
one.
Yes.
Eh, my positive affirmation is believe in yourself. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you don't believe in yourself, who else is gonna believe in you? So I want to thank
Absolutely.
everybody for tuning in to Wind Down Fridays will give a sister a hug, the Survivor Edition episode. I'm your girl, Author Erica. I have my fabulous co-host, Author Kim, on with me, and our special guest, Vanessa. So thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.